What's up, you freaking geniuses? So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to find the inverse of a function, all right? And you can basically break this bad boy down into 3 steps, which I conveniently wrote right here. So the first one is just rewriting your function with y. So this f of x, you just replace with y. The second thing you're going to do is flip your x and y terms. And then lastly, you're just going to solve for y, okay? So for example, here we have f of x is equal to 4x minus 9. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is replace this f of x with a y. So we're going to say y is equal to 4x minus 9. Okay, and then we're going to flip the y and the x. So then we're going to say x is equal to 4y minus 9. Okay, and then lastly, we're going to solve for y. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is get rid of this minus 9 by adding 9 to both sides. So then we're going to get x plus 9 is equal to, those cancel out, right? So we're just left with 4y on this side. And then to get rid of this 4, we're going to divide both sides by 4. Okay, so then these cancel out. So then we're just left with y is equal to x plus 9 over 4. Okay, and then the last thing, which I probably should have added here, is to just rewrite the y with the inverse function. So that's what you want to write in place of y. So instead of y is equal to x plus 9 over 4, we're going to write this as f, basically to the negative first of x. So that just means the inverse function is equal to x plus 9 over 4. All right, so then that would be your final answer right there. Okay, so here we have g of x is equal to negative x plus 5. So again, we're going to write this as y is equal to negative x plus 5. And then we're just going to flip the x and y. So we're going to have x is equal to negative y plus 5. All right, and then lastly, just solving for y over here, let's get rid of this positive 5 by subtracting 5 from both sides. Those cancel out, so then we get x minus 5 is equal to negative y, right? To get rid of this negative sign, divide both sides by negative 1, like so. So then we get, those cancel out, right? So then we get positive y is equal to x divided by negative 1 is equal to negative x. And negative 5 divided by negative 1 is equal to positive 5, right? So plus 5. Okay, cool. So we solved for y. So then the last thing is just plugging in our inverse function notation and saying that's equal to negative x plus 5, right? So there's your final answer. All right, now let's try one with a fraction. All right, so here we have s of x is equal to 1/4 x minus 1. Okay, so again, we're going to write this as y is equal to 1/4 x minus 1. And then we're going to flip those, right? So we're going to say x is equal to 1/4 y minus 1. All right, so let's solve for y now. So the first thing we can do here is get rid of this minus 1 by adding 1 to both sides. Those cancel out, so then we're left with x plus 1 is equal to 1/4 y. All right. Now, in order to get rid of this fraction, all you need to do is multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply this whole side by 4 over 1. But 4 over 1 is the exact same thing as just 4, right? It's equal to 4. So we can just really multiply this side by 4. And if we're going to multiply this side by 4, we need to multiply this whole side by 4. Okay, so then on this side, the 1/4 and the 4 cancel out. So then we're just left with y. So y is equal to 4 times x plus 1. And if you want, you can actually distribute that into these parentheses. So 4 times x is equal to 4x, and 4 times positive 1 is equal to positive 4. Okay, so then you get y is equal to 4x plus 4, or again, with the inverse notation, it would be f of negative 1 of x is equal to 4x plus 4. Boom. All right, here's a kind of a more complicated fraction. So here we have p of x is equal to x plus 2 over x minus 4. Okay, so again, the first thing we're going to do is just rewrite this as y is equal to x plus 2 over x minus 4. Okay, now we're going to flip the x's and the y's, right? So here we're going to have x is equal to, and then wherever you see an x, you're going to replace it with a y. So we're going to have y plus 2 over y minus 4. Okay, so here we have x is equal to y plus 2 over y minus 4, right? So one thing we can do here is write x as x over 1, right? Because it's still the same thing. X and x over 1 are the exact same thing. But the reason I'm going to do this is because now I've set up a proportion, right? X over 1 is equal to y plus 2 over y minus 4. And in order to solve a proportion, all you need to do is cross multiply. So we're going to multiply these two together, and then we're going to set that equal to our other cross right there. Okay, so our first cross right here is x times y minus 4. So let's write that out. X times y minus 4. And that's equal to our other cross, 1 times y plus 2, right? 1 times y plus 2. Okay, now we can take these terms and distribute them into the parentheses, right? So we have x times y minus 4. So we're going to have xy minus 4x. And that's equal to 1 times y plus 2. But anything times 1 is just itself, right? So here we really just have y plus 2. Okay, and I'm actually going to just move this bottom line right here just to give myself some more room to work. Okay, so xy minus 4x is equal to y plus 2. So that looks pretty gross, right? But remember, we're just trying to solve for y. So let's try and get all the y's on one side of the equal sign and all the other terms onto the other side. Okay, so here we have xy on the left side. Let's move this y to the left side also. So we're going to subtract y from both sides. So then on this side, we're going to have xy minus 4x minus y is equal to, well, those canceled out, so we're just left with a positive 2, right? And then this 4x, let's move it to the other side since it doesn't have a y attached to it. So let's do a different color. Let's add 4x to both sides. So then here they cancel out. So then we're left with xy minus y is equal to 4x plus 2. Okay, so here we have this like x term that's being kind of annoying. So one thing we can do is actually factor out a y term from each of these. So we're going to factor out a y from each of these terms. So then on the inside, we're just going to be left with this x. And then if we factor out a y from itself, that's 1, right? So here we're going to have minus 1, okay? So we factor out a y, and then that's still equal to this side over here, 4x plus 2. Okay, and I'm going to scroll down this time to have some extra room over here. So now in order to isolate the y, we need to get rid of this x minus 1. So we can do that by dividing both sides by x minus 1, right? Because then on this side, the x minus 1 on top and the bottom cancel out. So then we're just left with y right there. So we get y is equal to this whole thing, 4x plus 2 over x minus 1. All right, so we finally got y by itself, right? But then the last thing we want to do is just replace this y with the inverse notation. So we're going to say the inverse function is equal to 4x plus 2 over x minus 1. What a doozy. And pain in the ass. All right, here's the last one we're going to do. So f of x is equal to 3 times the square root of x minus 8. All right, so this is going to be y is equal to 3 times the square root of x minus 8, right? And then now let's flip the x and y. So x is equal to 3 times the square root of y minus 8. Okay, now we're trying to solve for y. So the first thing we can do is get rid of this 3 by dividing both sides by 3, right? So then we get x over 3 is equal to, those cancel out, so the square root of y minus 8. Okay, now in order to get rid of a square root, all you have to do is square it, right? And what we do to one side, we do to the other, right? So we have to square this whole side also. So then on this side, the square root and the squared exponent cancel out. So then we're just left with y minus 8. And then on this side, we have x over 3 squared, right? So in order to apply an exponent to a fraction, you have to apply it to the top and the bottom. So on top, we're going to have x squared, and on the bottom, we're going to have 3 squared, and 3 squared is equal to 9, right? And then the last thing we can do here is get rid of this 8 by adding 8 to both sides, right? So then these cancel out. So then we're just left with y, and I'll write it over here, right? Y is equal to x squared over 9 plus 8, right? X squared over 9 plus 8. But again, we can replace this y with our inverse notation, right? So we're going to write it as the inverse function is equal to x squared over 9 plus 8.
So if you found the video helpful, definitely leave a thumbs up down below. And if you have any other questions or want to see any other examples, just let me know in the comment section below.